You know, right before we, right before that last set, I almost thought that the guys on Envy might have to start making one of those videos. But after their performance, I think Gauntlet might be a little bit nice to them.
I mean, they've got a chance to be near the top of the Gauntlet. If they're able to pull off the 2-0 up against Denial here, that puts them in a decent spot in the Gauntlet. They don't have to go through quite as many teams, and we could end up seeing them at Super Regionals.
Yeah, I think they made a lot of good adjustments there in game number 2 as far as their composition and their general play style is concerned. You can see right there with only 2 points, unfortunately, EnVyUs, they're knocked out of really making it to Super Regionals out of here. But as I was talking to Skeeledon right after, he said, look, you know, I think I like this system a lot because normally we might have given up at this point, but they're still fighting to really make those points count.
Yeah, definitely. I think they've seen a huge improvement in their play, especially even game 1 to game 2 of that set. Yeah. All of them really stepped it up on EnVyUs, especially Kiki, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, what was interesting to me was, yes, you're absolutely right. You saw the individual performance just step up. Everybody played better. But the attention to the gameplay, right, or just the approach to the game was drastically different. And that's something that I think that EnVyUs had trouble with pretty much the entire split, was just figuring out what their game is.
Exactly. Just being able to be like, all right, well, you know, let's just cut loose and have a little bit of fun, play what we want to play, and see how it goes. It makes a huge difference for you as a team. They don't have nearly as much pressure on them to perform. They can just kind of let loose and play the game the way they want to play it. With their off-meta picks or with on-meta picks, it doesn't really matter. And we looked a lot better in game 2.
For sure, and you know, the Bastet is something that, and like I say a lot, I've been, you know, casting Challenger Cup once upon a time, and I'm friends with Skeeledon, so I know he has a Bastet, but he's relatively new to the SPL, so a lot of people kind of don't know that pocket pick. But not just the pick, like I said during the cast with Anatoly, it was just the approach to the game, right? We've seen Skeeledon time and time again try to play this hard carry jungler, try to be the Anister adapting, insert name here. But that's just not his playstyle, and that's okay. He goes to Bastet, he tries something different, he approaches the game in a different light, and it winds up with the win.
There really aren't a whole lot of carry junglers left in the SPL. That used to be the kind of meta. Now it's really just Anister and adapting are the two that come to mind. Homiefe can be as well from time to time. But
absolutely. Don't cut Homiefe short. He is absolutely a hard carry jungler.
He can be, yeah. But you'll also see him on gods like Nemesis that aren't there to hard carry, and he is there to set up for Hurriwind on Raijin in the middle lane.
Right, but I remember when we saw Crit come out of the Nemesis, so well, it happens.
Yeah, that was adapting, and that's only I don't know how he gets away with it. I really don't.
In any event, whether it's Homiefe in the jungle or anybody else, certainly very exciting stuff. What do we have? We have Envy versus Denial here today. So we're going to see how Denial comes back to the drawing board. How did we feel about their performance yesterday?
Overall, pretty good still. I mean, they were able to start off the day with a split up against Thor, which really had you feeling high up on Denial. But then as the day went on, not quite as strong. So they've still put themselves in a great spot. As long as they can take care of business here up against Envy, they'll be just fine. And
so like you said, the split with Soar has been the obvious dominant force. There's not a person really voting against them. But Yannick, you're obviously very close to the team. Why, you know, how did Denial wind up winning that game? And do you think that is a big picture, Denial's going to keep doing well today, or that was just sort of a one-time deal?
I think Denial is definitely overall a bit stronger than Enemy and Envy overall, a bit stronger than Envy and Enemy, as we've seen over the past 2 days. But I don't think it was really a consistent thing. I think overall we can definitely see Soar taking out those 2-0 victories over Denial in the future.
Yeah, I think I'm along with you. I think Denial, but that's always been sort of Denial's jam. This particular roster, they've been strong in spurts, they've been weak in spurts. Consistency is certainly their arch nemesis. So, as a coach, what would you say if you were coaching Denial or any team that sort of struggle with consistency? How do you keep everything sort of level and keep that ball rolling?
Well, it kind of depends on player to player. Some players are just inconsistent. That's just the way they are. But we've seen Herwin develop that consistency over this lane. He's definitely become a much more consistent player, especially when you go back to his DreamHack performance. Everyone on the team is sort of, it's just more of a development thing as far as players. Nothing you can really say to them to really nail down that consistency.
I think a big part of it is also putting the right teammates around you, right? We saw Hurriwind on Soar next to Homiefe, and obviously they're no longer on that team. Hurriwind was the target, and Homiefe went with him, right? Hurriwind has been relatively inconsistent, so that's why, you know, putting players around him is a very big deal. Homiefe is certainly going to allow Hurriwind to be a little bit more consistent, and I think that overall helps out Denial.
You talked about it there. This inconsistency is kind of Denial's story, even with this roster and previous rosters as well. And it's really like all centered around Hurriwind. You have moments where you're like, oh man, Hurricwind's looked great this lane. He's doing really great things. And then he dives under a tier 2 tower to try and kill a support whenever the rest of his team's doing Gold Fury. And I mentioned that to him yesterday. I'm like, Herwin, I'm so ready to like, talk you up and say how well you're doing. And then you do things like that. And he's like, yeah, man, once I start to feel myself doing well, I've got to do something dumb. It's in my nature. I've got to.
Well, Hurriwind, Tyler, as he's known elsewhere, it's sort of always been his jam. He's inconsistent, maybe. Volatile is probably a better word. He's a polarizing player, both on the battlefield and outside of the game. Let's hear how the players feel about him.
Ever since the beginning of Season 3, I've always wanted to play with Thor because I think, and I know he is the best mid in NA. He's also really good mechanically, and he's just like a really close friend.
Hurry's a really good mid laner. I think his strength is in his comms. I think he's like mechanically weak, and his attitude isn't like the greatest, but I think him and Homie work really well together.
Hurriwind is really good at seeing his own mistakes and improving on it. I know within like even the last year, Hurriwind wasn't nearly as good as he is now. He's improved a ton recently, especially.
Herwin is actually one of my better friends. Even though we kicked him from the team, he's always been a very close friend to me, even now. But I'm pretty sure going into this LAN, if we just kind of sit back and chill, he'll probably die to minions and we can just win the game off that.
Herwin and I kind of have a rivalry because I replaced him on Soar, and he likes to bring it up a lot. And I want to see how he plays on LAN and how I do against him on this LAN.
Hurriwind is probably the worst mid laner in NA. Like if I made their roster, it's gone.
Herwin's just, I feel like he tilts a lot.
Hurriwind is a good friend of mine. He tilts a lot, but he is a good player when he actually tries.
Herwin, he's a little rager, but he is a little rager. He's nice though. I was friends with him like on Chunks. He's good. I don't know about LAN though. DreamHack, Janice, uh-oh.
I was able to speak to Herwin. I had the pleasure of speaking to Herwin, actually. Let me rephrase that. I really like this guy in general. And, I asked him specifically, I said, look, dude, you got kicked from a team. Everybody is not shy about their opinion of how good or not good you are, right? People seem to bash this dude a lot, and he gets a lot of flack kind of for answering back. And I said, hey man, do you have a chip on your shoulder? Are you trying to prove something? And I think a lot of people go ahead and answer, no man, of course not. Herwin said, obviously, why else would I be here? I got a lot to prove, and I'm really pissed about it.
And he's playing very well so far this LAN. Overall, the overall team play from Herwin has been good. A couple still flashes of why are you doing this? But as a whole, I think that he's probably fairly pleased with his performance.
Yeah, no, I think that, we look at that emotional tilt as we heard there. I think that ride on emotion is looked at negatively a lot, and for good reason. But here I think he's channeling it in the right direction. And the direction he's going to have to channel it is right there. It's Ishmael Torres. KikiSoCheeky, the man of many different names. He's always got a smile on his face. But unfortunately, the wins haven't really been coming to really force those smiles.
Yeah, I'd say definitely he needs to look towards his original God pool for him to be able to step up his performance. And the Isis is definitely a step in the right direction, maybe even a Nuwa. But those Cupid picks early on in the tournament, maybe even a Ra would be a good pick. But Cupid, Raijin, definitely not his style, I would say.
Yeah, I was less offended by the Cupid. I thought I saw what they were trying to do. It didn't execute. But every time I see the Raijin selection, that seems to be the problem with Envy overall to me, is they just kind of try to pick these choices that don't vibe with the team. Do what you're good at. Eager has succeeded at it so far. So Kiki here on the Ra, obviously doing well, and I think he's going to look to try to pick after that second game that we just saw. I think that he, as well as the rest of the team, is going to gravitate to some more traditional picks.
I mean, when he was on AFK, and AFK was the dominant force in Season 2, they would first pick Isis. They were not shy about giving Kiki Isis, and then he's kind of gone away from that in Season 3, and I didn't really know why, and after watching this play in Game 2, I still don't know why they don't pick more Isis.
Yeah, I mean, Envy, they like to go for the objectives, and Circle of Protection is excellent at that, and it's just troublesome. But so, Kiki also, in not just his gameplay, smart move banning the Ao Kwang away from Homiefe, Kiki is also just one of these personalities, right? You can say whatever you want about his gameplay, but he's generally the equalizer. He said to me, you know, some members of the team get a little excited or angry sometimes, and he's the one to calm it down. How important is that, Ionic, to make sure that that presence is on your team?
That's actually really important. When I was coaching EnVyUs actually at the start of the spring split, Allied was actually that personality. He's actually one of the best teammates I've ever seen.
Yep.
Just calming everyone down, making sure nobody's getting too over the top, and it looks like Kiki's transitioned into that role for Envy.
Exactly, and you know, like you said, you can't really, it's so important, and I think a lot of the fans at home don't really grasp that, right? A lot of times you'll see these players that last on teams and you sort of scratch, he's so bad, why is he still on that team? There's an intangible there that, you know, that absolutely brings presence to it. Bacchus is the first selection for Envy. They're not only going to take that away from Shadowq, who loves that pick, but they're going to put it on PolarBearMike himself. Agni and Thor are the selection for Denial, and I got to say, I've always really liked Herwin's Agni.
Kind of surprised to see it picked up this early, though.
Sure.
I mean, there were so many options open. His Raijin's been solid, but he usually likes to pair that with the Nemesis, so I guess he didn't want to do that. I guess just going for two safe picks here in the mid and jungle. Naja being covered for Skeeledon, I like this option for him. Even with how successful he was on that Bastet in the last game, Naja would work very well with Isis. Envy and I are on the same page right now.
Well, everybody seems to understand. Hey, man, Kiki played his face off last game with that Isis, so certainly want to reprise that. Ionic, I want to ask you a question about Agni. A lot of times characters will sort of dictate, all right, you've got a Bacchus Naja, you're looking for an all-in comp, right? What kind of gameplay does Agni dictate, if any at all?
I'd say Agni is more of just a standard mid laner, always there to provide the damage. And actually, Agni, one of the old school counters to Isis.
Exactly.
Not so much at the start of the game, but once you get into that level 8, level 9, the long range poke from Agni is really, really good against the Isis.
Well, because my thought process there was Agni being picked so early, I'm with you. You don't have to worry about that being selected away, probably not going to be banned out, but by selecting a character early, sometimes you can sort of bait your opponent into saying, hey, we're looking to play this style game. Agni doesn't really do that, so do you have any insight to why we see it's picked so early?
I think more so is just Herwin a comfort pick. He wants to pick the Agni. Maybe he wasn't feeling the Raijin so much right now, or maybe they want to save more other picks for later. Counterpick the solo lane or the AD carry.
Plus, Agni and Thor both do two things very, very well, and it's the same two things. They both have great long-range poke, like you mentioned with Agni past level 8-9, and Thor with the wall double tap. And they both team fight really well, because they both have big circles that can hit a lot of people. The Thor wall can also separate a team fight, and Agni can reposition very well. It's difficult to really kill him early on in a team fight as well. So both these guys excel at the same thing, which is why they pair so well together.
Why do you like big circles so much, Aggro?
Do I have to answer that question?
No, please don't. Guan Yu banned out by Denial here. Certainly a very powerful pick. We saw, again, I spoke a lot during the cast about Skeeledon switching up his strategy, and we spoke earlier about the move away from trying to be that hard carry jungler. Cyclone also switched up his gameplay strategy, although it hid in the shadows a little bit. He played this support style. He played this support as Guan Yu, really helping the team out. So it's going to be banned this time around. What other choices can Cyclone go that sort of fit that style?
Well, there's not too much in the soul lane. Guan Yu is almost a free win condition if you get to that late game because of how much healing he provides. I wouldn't be surprised to see Cyclone pick up an Erlang Shen here with the Hog, or a Ravana are, I think, his really two prime picks here.
I agree. I think the Erlang Shen would set up very, very well for Kiki in the middle lane, and it will allow the early game kind of pressure from Envy to be very, very strong. Naja is a character that's very strong early and very strong late. There's, you know, the middle of the book is still kind of missing. We don't know the middle part, but that's in the early game. The ring toss is just so much work to clear the jungle quickly and can really turn a team fight as well as you're setting up. Then in the late game, that ult can 100 to 0 a squishy, but between those, you're really just looking to set up for Isis, and picking an Erlang Shen would do that very well.
And I like the Naja selection for Skeeledon here because you get the half and half. I just applauded Skeeledon for moving away from the hard carry jungler and into this sort of the setup man or different playstyle in general. Naja can both be that sort of setup man as well as the hard carry, depending how the game goes. So you'll see that direction change most likely. Change their mind from Odin. Now thinking about Robin. Nothing confirmed or locked in stone here just yet, but that'll fit what Ionic was talking about, playing that bully. And the Soul selection.
I really, really like this. If they lock both of these picks in. Yeah, Oceans on Soul is definitely a strong pick. No, it's actually going to be Ratatosker. I'm assuming going into the solo lane, we're finally going to see CycloneSpin back on an Assassin. This is Season 2 stuff right here. Kiki on Isis and Cyclone on an Assassin.
Yeah, but I'm with Oceans. He's just kind of like, what? Bacchus and Naja, excellent setup for The what? There doesn't seem to be anything on the receiving end of two fantastic setup gods. In general, Envy has finished up their draft here, whether it's the Naja or the Ratatoskr in that solo lane. How do you feel about this one, Yannick?
I'd say this team's a very good counter-initiating team. You see the Thor dunk down, but the Ice Assault and the Ratatoskr ult in order to counter-initiate will definitely be Envy's game plan going into this.
Is that going to be enough? Does Envy have to be proactive? Does Envy have to be proactive here, or can they win off of just countering?
Well, they still can look to make proactive plays with the Naja into the Ice Assault, Naja into the Soul Ult, and they can definitely get some good initiations with the Bacchus flop as well. So I wouldn't say they're relying solely on the counter initiation, but that's definitely a good game plan for them to have.
See what you did there? Solely, not depending solely on it.
That's
I got
my-
Yannick to
that's my
smile.
man.
I got him to smile. 10 points to me. Finishing up the draft for Denial is going to be Sun Wu Kong. I love this character. I think he brings a lot of just general annoyance. Aggro, what's your take on both drafts?
You know what? I'm gonna go with Envy. They're gonna get on a roll here. Go with some jank stuff. It's time to pull out the cheese, and it's out. The crackers are ready to be put the cheese on.
All right, you broke down the strategy, Yannick. How do you feel about who do you think wins this one?
I'm going to go with Envy. Cyclone has always been so good on those assassins, so I feel like Envy is going to take the win here.
I am very excited to see the assassin come out in the solo lane at the very least. Will it be the Naja? Please, I'm pleading you. Kevin and Toli, please bring me the solo Naja.
We can't bring you it, but Cyclone might be able to. To be fair, Cyclone, I still remember Season 1 actually did have 2 games on Naja solo. Now, it's been quite some time since Season 1. It's actually been quite some time since we've seen Cyclone on an assassin.
It's been a while. When he used to play with Weekend back in the AFK days, they always used to run this double assassin composition. Mostly, they would play like Arachne, Ao Kuang, and then interchange between the two depending on the matchup. But we've seen them play Ratatoskr before, and that's exactly what it's going to be.
Sorry, Tom. Ratatoskr just works a little bit better with the sustain in his kit. And Envy, I was talking to Skeeledon, and he told me, he's like, we're just gonna cheese Denial, right? We're gonna out Denial, and that seems to be what they're going for. Double assassins, also the Isis in mid, puts out a lot of pressure, and they got Oceans on a god he's very comfortable with.
I mean, it's clear that EnVyUs wants to out Denial. When you're first picking Bacchus away from Shadowq,
yeah.
That's exactly what Denial are known for. That 5-man group up at level 1 with the Bacchus belly flop, even rocking that skin.
And you can see Wrath was picked up by CycloneSpin as well. Feels confident enough in this laning phase without a blue buff. He doesn't have any mana potions either. He's got, with the blue buff, right? Doesn't feel like he needs the purification, which could be dangerous. A lot of CC on Denial, and you have to know, or you have to expect that Homiefe with that Thor is going to take a visit over to his lane early on without those purification.
It should be the case for the most part, and something that we've come to expect out of Denial is Shadowq always going the route, trying to get the red buff down as quickly as possible, which is such a good thing, especially against an Isis. We see Agni already in position to get his dash off, and on the other side, CycloneSpin is trying to get the wrap to get to soul lane a little quicker, get an edge there, and that way, once he starts rotating to gold here at team fights, at least they have some counterplay against Shadowq.
And really fast clear with those double assassins. Skeeledon and Cyclone already in lane, going to control those fire elementals as well. Right side Harpies do go the way of Denial. We saw Herwin get to lane incredibly fast, but they've got to back off with Skeeledon's rotation. They only actually got one really good start from Envy.
They didn't have the damage quite yet to get those 2 Harpies right off the bat. They were really afraid of the rotation from Skeeledon and CycloneSpin. That damage from the double assassin is too strong, and now being rewarded with 1 right side mid Harpy and the Fire Giant Elementals. Envy going off to a great start.
Homiefe going to take a little bit of poke too. Skeeledon just going to control the left Harpy, so this is going to be free. And this is one thing that we've really seen be a constant factor on Envy. Left-hand side of the map, PolarBearMike and Oceans, no lane pressure. I don't think we've seen maybe one game out of the 10 odd they've played, they've had lane pressure, but haven't really been able to get control.
It's not at the end of the world, considering that there's a lot of mid pressure from EnVyUs. Eventually, there could be that collapse between this Isis Naja, but now being able to control 3 out of 4 of those mid Harpies. Benji, though, taking a lot of poke, but Benji hitting level 4 does be out clear CycloneSpin because of the itemization here. We see Mark of the Vanguard for CycloneSpin trying to negate some of the archer damage, whereas Benji going for for that bluestone pen and trying to out-clear Cyclone.
But look at this, Benji, he's got no potions left. He had to spend them all very early on. You don't like to see that from a warrior. He does have that TP though, so if we can see a kill over in this right-hand side anytime soon onto CycloneSpin, maybe once Homiefe hits 5, it's going to be hard for CycloneSpin to get back into this match.
Such a smart play from CycloneSpin getting this Mark of the Vanguard. He has the sustain built into his kit. Having the Wrath as well could be an offensive play if he can find the right stun, preventing Benji from going into the clouds once he does hit level 5. So, but now CycloneSpin, because of those Fire Giant elementals he secured earlier on, he is level 5 first. He doesn't elect to put a point into his ultimate though. He wants to get more lane control first.
Doesn't feel like he'll need it or that he's going to have the chance to set up a kill. PBM going to be flung into the jungle, just take a couple autos from Vetium, but he's going to go aggressive. Stellar Burst off the mark, it hits the wave, but doesn't tag Vetium. I think Oceans was trying to hit both there.
Great positioning from Vetium. He really understands the mechanics of every single god in the matchups that he always encounters. So just positioning himself as close to the opposite wall that he can, avoiding that Stellar Burst.
Well, both junglers are 5 now. Homiefe, the question's on to him if he's going to dictate the pace of this game. And it's a little bit risky, obviously. You're into 2 assassins. Sanaja and Isis both have decent, kind of counter initiations onto Thor if he's not careful. A lot of purification burners.
If I'm Homiefe here, I'm looking at everyone but the Isis. I don't want to get disrupted during my Berserker Barrage. I'm looking at one of the side lanes, maybe try to camp out Ocean specifically, because I don't want to have to worry about the global pressure from CycloneSpin as well.
Well, Invade comes through. Skeeledon doesn't want to give this up for free. Agni Bombs over the top. The Ring and the Wrath are going to secure it, successfully steal the buff. Homiefe going to burn his Purification too. Scared that Skeeledon was going to ult, and here comes Cyclone as well, dropping down. Homiefe takes to the sky. Him and Shadowq are going to be able to successfully disengage, but their speed buff is open to be counter-stolen.
There's 4 members from EnVyUs around the corner, 3 on the speed buff. Only Shadowq there. Skeeledon electing to trade 1 for 1, but now Denal regrouping and collapsing on Cyclone's blue buff. Homie doesn't have his ultimate. No purification, and his hammer's down. Cyclone needs to stop this back.
He doesn't know. He didn't know where he went. He got distracted by Benji. PolarBearMike has made the rotation. Benji has ult. He is going to use it. There are 4 members over here for Envy, and successfully disengaged there. I mean, heads up play from Homie there. We saw him take to the sky after he got initiated in, saw that his speed buff was being stolen away and just crashed right down onto Cyclone's blue, but then Envy just trade. No one wants their own jungle. They just don't want their own jungle.
Despite there's no depth so far, Benji, no ultimate. PolarBearMike trying to set up Cyclone a little bit there. Now left side mid Harpy's going to Envy yet again. The bomb stunts coming out. Skeeledon might be in a little bit of trouble, but that ultimate will save him.
A lot of baits coming out from both teams here. I think Vetium took the sky as well, off the mark on killing Skeeledon, but a nice attempt coming out from Denial. They're really setting the pace of this game. They're the ones being the aggressors, but we heard what Ionic said. Envy have a very good counter-engaged team comp with that Isis, also with the Ratatosker ultimate as well, and we've already seen that kind of dictate the pace of the game. Denial, they set up the invades, and then Envy comes after them.
There's just so much action, but very little. There's no kills actually on the board quite yet, so we just see a lot of back and forth. Speed buff invade here, a little bit of pressure, forcing those ultimates to be able to survive. Then the counter invade. Same thing goes with the blue buffs, exploiting the repositioning of invading the speed. We're going to steal your blue. A lot of tactical maneuvering between these two teams.
I mean, for Denial here, 1 win secures them into Super Regionals. Enemy can only tie them, and Denial have the head-to-head based on how the games have gone so far. You almost want to think that they could play this too safe sometimes, right? If they're not playing their own game, if they know they only need 1 win, they may not try and take any risks.
But they're going to try to take a risk onto Kiki, plugging him into Homiefe, but not enough damage. Now forcing the circular protection. Will top him off a little bit. Now Cyclone not going to be able to save Kiki's life, though, unfortunately.
Cyclone does get the Wrath there, and Shadowq helps his team disengage. Good stun and reaction time from him. And First Blood, Kiki just kind of pushed up there. Had Purification on the pluck, but he didn't use it. Now PolarBearMike flung back into the team of Denial. PBM off the mark on the knock-up here, but no other further engagement coming out. Denial just take their 1 kill.
Didn't really respect the pluck into Homiefe. The damage was just a little bit too much to handle, especially with Benji wrapping around underneath, and that's one of the advantages of the Warrior versus Assassin matchup. Assassins is always looking to box and fight, whereas Warriors is looking to clear and then rotate.
And look at this left-hand side. I remember the interview where Pain DeVion said he felt Vetium was an incredibly talented hunter, but if he gave Vetium a lead, he wouldn't take advantage of it. We're not seeing this here. We're seeing Vetium pushed up to this tower, making sure that Ocean stays locked underneath, and Ocean's landing phase have not been good this tournament at all.
Not at all. And now with this Soul trying to play a little bit defensively, finishing off the Dynasty plate helmet, not having the mobility really to match Vetium that has the Warrior tab he finished. He has the ultimate to confirm the kills after the Separate is on cooldown.
And right-hand side again, the invade comes out, speed buff is secured and stolen away by Denial, but this time Envy not in a position to steal away Denials, and so they're gonna have to hold that loss. First time we've really seen an advantage go to any team there.
Just being able to wait just a little bit. EnVyUs now wanting to go a little bit too aggressive. Denial having to peel off there. They used a little bit too much onto Kiki, and with that rotation coming back online, there's more, I would say, CC set up from both teams. But now Kiki in trouble yet again.
He's going to get flung out of his ult, and Shadowq finds the kill. Now PolarBearMike in a lot of trouble. He managed to get over the wall just barely, but Homiefe was waiting for him. He's looking for the stun, but Homiefe finds the last hit. In the meantime, right-hand side, Envy did find a kill onto Benji, though, helping out CycloneSpin.
Skeeledon making a nice rotation. That's what you want to do as a double assassin. Just camp the soul lane. You want to have that advantage. But now Stellar Burst from the Supernova from Oceans just to try to secure his own red buff.
He overstayed.
He's in trouble.
Shadowq trying to find the pluck here. Going pretty deep. Off the mark. Vetium finds the snipes, though. Playing out of his mind right now.
This is exactly what we were talking about. After the separate, the snipes do come out from Vetium. This is the perfect counter matchup, I would say. And the Soul was actually picked into the ROM. Vetium is going to be in a really decent position here because now he's going to be able to get an extra wave here over Oceans. PolarBearMike has to be able to try to hold this outside the tower now.
And you know, it's really rare to see a Soul get pushed back so far, especially onto a ROM. We know how good ROM is late game, but a lot of times can struggle in the laning phase. Obviously, his wave clear, he has to sit in the melee minions to get the Astral Strike, but this is a great start for Denial. 4-1 in kills, really just kind of unanswered from EnVyUs.
Just great positioning, being able to take advantage of Kiki yet again. We see the initiation, but being stopped. Great defensive play from Skeeledon, taking Shadowq into the sky, and now Shadowq forced a defensive ulti away.
But Skeeledon can't confirm the kill. That's the brutal part about it. Skeeledon comes up with a great Shadow. You saw him start to dip into that mid lane or the left side Harpies, and then so many pings come out. CycloneSpin looking for Homiefe, and Skeeledon is going to find it. Homie can't take to the sky in time. Good reaction from Envy responding to that.
This is just CycloneSpin now being able to rotate. He ignores the wave for a quick second. He saw that how much action there was in the mid lanes. Kiki was taken advantage of. He hasn't used his purification so far to be able to survive against the plucks from Shadowq. And then he was walled off from Homiefe in that last encounter, just barely able to survive.
Envy. Okay. Looking for that Gold Fury. Just a bait, though. PBM trying to counter that ward. Takes a couple bombs to the face, and Shadowq's rotating, so PBM has to jump over the wall.
This could be problematic now because Shadowq does have Wrath available. We see CycloneSpin having the Wrath, but it is on cooldown. He's on the right-hand side. Even if he backs to get teleport now that he's level 12, he wouldn't really be able to contest that burst coming from Denial.
Left-hand side, Shadowq is still hanging around here. I really think Denial are trying to focus on Oceans. We see the right-hand side really kind of leaning towards Envy. They've put the pressure onto Benji, got the kill, and CycloneSpin going to be hard for him to match up now with the breastplate picked up by Sun Wukong.
So now Denial, they recognize they have the Wrath advantage.
Did they just give that up?
They see the Soul Pact, and that's going to be a free Gold Fury, not even the 10-minute mark.
Did they just concede that? Did they know what was going on, do you think?
They had a Sentry Ward from Denial to see it. It doesn't seem that the vision was quite there for EnVyUs, just having to concede that with CycloneSpin on the right-hand side without the Wrath. Could have went for teleport to try to contest it, but instead,
I'm gonna assume they didn't, because you know, even when golds look like they should be given up, a lot of teams will try and go for an initiation for a fight afterwards. A lot of teams, you know, burn all their abilities at the last second to confirm the Gold Fury along with the Wrath, and so typically a really great job to try and engage afterwards. And it's very rare, especially in the early ones, to see a team just ignore it completely.
And the Gold Fury just went down so quickly, too. So Denial did a great job there. EnVyUs needs to be a little bit more proactive about warding around. Homiefe getting knocked up into the sky by Skeeledon, waiting for him around the corner, though. Shadowq able to really not save his life, though.
Perfect initiation. The belly flop, the Spirit Bowl, straight into the sash, straight into the ult. Homiefe had nothing to do. His purification was down, couldn't react.
Not at all, and that's going to be another clean pick yet again from Skeeledon. He found a kill earlier on to Benji, was able to really save Kiki's life with his defensive ulti. So he's been really comfortable, I would say.
I mean, is this just no pressure Envy that they're actually going to play at a decently high level and be able to take games off a team? Skeeledon you know, he's been inconsistent, but so far, just phenomenal plays coming up from him.
Well, we haven't seen him really been able to camp the solos, the Hunter or the solo lanes earlier on in this weekend, but now playing this assassin, the Bastet the last game, now Jean now this time around, he's able to make the plays that he really wants to, going for the PvE style last game, and now he's not afraid of fighting at all.
And Denial are in the gold lead, but a big mismatch in the gold in the jungle. You can see Homiefe not only 2 levels down, but also about 500, not something you see. I mean, Denial are winning in gold by about 1,500. It's rare to see Homiefe this far behind.
It is very rare because he's the one usually making the plays for Denial, especially playing this Thor, relying on that global pressure. But it's not the end of the world for Denial because Thor can still make plays from behind. He still does a respectable amount of damage with a double tap. The wall can set up so many plays for Denial. And on top of this, all they have to do to adapt to get back into this game, experience-wise for Homie, is to not allow Skeeledon to keep finding these kills. Make sure that the purification is up whenever you see the sash.
Oh, that's
go
a
off.
hammer. Skeeledon doesn't want to engage, though. And it is going to be PolarBearMike flung back into the team in the middle of 4, trying to jump away. Herwin, his bombs are off the mark. Homiefe going to take to the sky, though. Oceans is split up from the rest of his team. Homiefe looking for him. Vetium commits as well. Very low, 1 health, but he is going to be able to get away. And Herwin's rotation going to get caught out. Great spirit ball from Kiki. Envy, get out of danger.
Nice defensive supernova coming out of Oceans. He didn't back quite yet for the second relic, so he didn't have Sanctuary to absorb all those cooldowns, but relying on his teammates to bail him out of that one. Envy is lucky to walk away.
Oh, Kiki steps forward. Does have the Sanctuary. There's the Sash, and Shadowq flicks him back into Homiefe. The Isis ult is down, and here comes Cyclone's rotations. Up to the sky you go. Shadowq probably going to get picked off. PBM dropping the Intoxicate just to make it hard for Denial to fight in.
It was too early, though. Shadowq walks away with a nice meditation as well, and a Skeeledon that gets picked off by Benji to get answer back immediately in return, so 1 for 1.
How does Shadow get out of that? I mean, there was so many abilities committed onto him. I guess just doesn't even have a shell yet. It's just the Wrath.
Not at all, but the Intoxicate was used while Shadowq was still in the air just to try to zone the rest of Denial away. It seemed that PBM thought that Shadowq was going to die regardless.
That the damage was going to be... Ooh, PolarBearMike. Careful there. Got to jump away. CycloneSpin, level 14, rotating over. But he has to be careful, too. 4 members of Denial in the right-hand side of the jungle. And the lead is still about the same, though. A little bit over 1,000 for Denial. We're starting to see them pick up the pace a little bit. They do have the kill lead as well. But it really seems like all the momentum's in Envy's favor.
It just seems that way with Skeeledon making the plays with his ultimate. Like we mentioned before, if Skeeledon wins these engagements by taking anyone into the sky, they get the picks. Otherwise, it's Denial that's able to make the comeback. We see how well Hurriwind and Homiefe play off of each other, and this is why they first picked their gods. We saw Agni and Thor. This is not something we're normally used to seeing Kiki play with the Agni, so it's like there's no reason to pick Agni that early for Denial. It's just something that they wanted to dictate right off the bat.
Last hit, Cyclone did steal that buff away here. Benji just trying to put some poke damage on, doesn't want him to get away with that just for free. Benji has no tower on the right-hand side, but Envy not looking to abuse it, instead grouping up in the mid. Actually, we do see a rotation from Skeeledon onto Vetium. I think he's looking to relieve some pressure off of Oceans.
This is what you really need to do. Get your late game Magical Hunter in position to start carrying the game, because CycloneSpin at this point is already well off. He got the tower. He's making the rotations that he really needs to do. Try to shut down Vetium here, allowing Oceans to just outcarry him.
I mean, we've already seen the gold gap kind of close. Oceans was 2 levels down, just getting bullied under tower, really, just losing a ton of gold. Now it's only 100 gold difference, and again, Denial did get that Gold Fury, so a great job from them recovering. The only real lead we see for Denial is on Hurriwind, who's got about a 500 lead over Kiki. But I mean, Kiki's not too worried about that. I mean, look, he's going utility build. He has a Gem of Isolation second item.
With 4 damage sources from that Wing Gust, 4 damage applications, it's going to be able to consistently slow multiple targets, especially if you're trying to fight into that circular protection. It does enough damage already, as well as applying the slow now. So I like the idea to go for the Gem of Isolation. He can also continue this if he wants to. He can go for Breastplate of Valor, getting more cooldowns, which would amplify the amount of slows he gets off as well.
I mean, I think I'd really like to see a Breastplate of Valor as well. You have an Assassin in the Soul lane that's going to be able to bring damage. You have a Soul. Bacchus, we know how much damage he does. Usually the Magi picked up by PolarBearMike as well.
I think more of a defensive style, just Kiki throwing out as many Spirit Balls and Wingus as possible to disrupt the flow of that team with the Gem of Isolation might be the best way to go.
Especially when you're trying to disrupt the flow from Denial, right? You see Homiefe having the Berserker Barrage, right? You're trying to shut that down as often as possible. You have to put your team in a position where they're not going to get capitalized on. It seems like Kiki was struggling a little bit earlier on, but now with Skeeledon constantly helping him out, he's in a position where he's getting his utility build completed.
Gold Fury started up by Denial and CycloneSpin looping around back. Denial have no idea this is happening, and he's going to take to the sky. Skeeledon finds one as well. Herwin's got to disengage. Homiefe looking for the counter initiation in the sky. Shadowq just trying to live. He does get out, but here comes Homie. Great stun by Skeeledon, and PolarBearMike off the mark on the flop. Isis able to heal up the team, but that's going to be a troublesome wall.
Benji from behind trying to do a lot of damage. The snipe is good onto Skeeledon, but in the backhand side, Benji still trying to engage onto Kiki. Sustaining a little bit. Vetium rolling in. The Sanctuary is not going to buy him enough time, but now PolarBearMike jumps over the wall.
Oceans.
That's 2 dead for EnVyUs. They're trying to find more, though.
The wall is going to make Ocean stay alive. CycloneSpin somehow gets out as well. A 2 for 0, but Denial, it's not unscathed. They're very low health. I love this play from Hurriwind, but it could spell danger. He wrapped them out of the dash. Hurriwind on Sanctuary gets picked up. CycloneSpin. Stick to assassins, man.
Hurriwind, oh my goodness, just a little bit too far overextended. You don't have to zone that far away from the Gold Sphere. You could be right along the wall. The damage also from Herwin would be enough to really secure the Gold Sphere a little bit quicker, as well as following up. You always want to have the Thor and the Agni together for that double wombo combo.
Yeah, no Purification, no Sanctuary, and CycloneSpin. I mean, that was a point. I think he was just going for the Wrath anyway, but that Agni dash barely started up before that Wrath stun came in. Beautiful play.
Herwin is trying to make a point, I think, in this weekend, and this is why he was going for that hero play. He saw just how low everyone from EnVyUs was after they initially found Kiki and PBM. Everyone in the red or yellow for EnVyUs, and the bomb stuns from Herwin at this point in the game will kill you. One bomb stun will set up the second one. Yeah, when you're that low, it's going to just absolutely devastate you.
Well, Gold Fury was picked up by Denial, though, so they still come out on top, and now a very close game has extended to about a 3K lead. Benji getting ganked on the right-hand side, but very tanky right now, has a Winged Blade. That's going to be procced, so get that bonus movement speed. The Breastplate and Spellbound Kusari as well being started up by him.
I like the Winged Blade option for Benji just to have a little bit more of a health pool to survive against Skeeledon if he gets taken up into the sky. Being able to negate the ring bounces, moving a little bit quicker. Also, if he gets silenced by Kiki or even hit by him with the Gem of Isolation, he'll just be moving even quicker to be able to lock him down. We saw just how much pressure Benji applied onto Kiki.
Oh, Benji used his dash there to clear the minion, so forced to ult probably earlier than he wanted to. PolarBearMike, though, puts some pressure on the right-hand side, but Homiefe is doing the same. Oceans has no idea. Wall off the mark, and he's just going to disapparate away, getting very low, though, and look at this. Vetium's going to take this guy. He's going to wait this out. All he needs is one shot. Ocean's trying to hide around the corner, but it's not going to be enough. Vetium 4-0-0.
But Herwin gets taken out in the mid lane. Kiki credited with the kill. A 3-on-1 against Shadowq. The sash comes out. That's a double kill for Kiki. But landing onto 2, and now Skeeledon gonna get traded out. A beautiful wall onto CycloneSpin. He has to dash away the sprint, keeping him alive for now. Homiefe, he has the speed buff. He could chase this down with Benji.
I think he's going for Kiki here, trying to avoid the stun. PBM does peel successfully, but Homiefe, you saw how scared he was about the damage coming out of Kiki. He was really worried about just kind of that burst potential, so couldn't follow up. In the meantime, though, that did allow Vetium, who got the kill onto Oceans, doesn't even rotate to the fight. I mean, if Vetium's there, probably a couple kills, but he gets a tier 1 and a tier 2.
I like the idea to sit behind and get those towers because the ultimate was used to confirm the kill onto Oceans. He wouldn't be really in position to clean up CycloneSpin. The mobility was quite too high with that dash, so now getting 2,000 extra gold into Denial's pocket off of those 2 towers.
CycloneSpin? Okay.
Maybe he thought somebody was going to contest those left mid harpies. You know, it's a total reasonable idea that at 20-minute mark, there's going to be a rotation for those left side mid harpies. The timing was there. Denial, they Denial didn't do what they needed to do. And
they were kind of just recovering, I think, after that fight. But, you know, going back to the split push too, just to talk about it, even if Vetium rotates, you never know how that fight's going to go. But the 2 towers were guaranteed because everyone was in that mid lane.
Absolutely, taking advantage of Oceans being dead there. So now Envy having to defend their tier 1 mid. Gonna concede it though. Kiki having to walk away from the bomb stun, using the Sanctuary, trying to buy time, but he gets deleted before the ult even comes out.
Everything was burned though. Skeeledon gonna find one in the back line. Shadowq's waiting for him on landing. Vetium Vetium very low. Homiefe off the mark on the stun, and Skeeledon just in the middle of 4, can't do anything. Cyclone's rotation comes through, but Denial are fighting as a team right now. Oof. Good stellar burst, but that meditation gonna heal back up a lot of that damage. Now Denial, 5 members strong, PolarBearMike backing to the fountain. This is gonna be another free tier 2. And Denial are just chipping away at EnVy objectively. They've got 4 towers, one on the right-hand side, incredibly low, and the first 2 gold furies of the game.
About 8,000 gold lead at this point, so I'm gonna be able to strip away another buff, a red buff. Late game, level 20 Rama, gonna be able to really start melting any sort of objective. Gold Fury will respawn in about a minute, and that's gonna be a really important thing for Denial to try to keep building their small lead. Already being able to take 4 out of 6 of these towers.
One win. One win is all it takes for Denial to qualify for Super Regionals. You know, it was the group of death, but Soar really shut everyone out. It's been Denial who's been really that other highlight team. We've seen just such phenomenal play out of them. You know, Hurriwind, he's made some risky plays, I think, trying to be that star, but he's had some really good games as well. I mean, just listening to that interview, there were so many dynamics to him. Like, some would be like, mechanics are great, some would be like, mechanics were wrong, but a lot of people did talk about kind of his rage, where, you know, he really struggles with tilting, and I know he's put in a lot of work to try and stop that.
I think his name is going to be Herwin Tilts a Lot Tyler. After this event.
Okay.
But anyway, he's been playing with a lot of confidence now,
don't
taking
do
it
it
to
to
the
him.
sky. Vetium hitting the 3rd one, almost finding the kill. Great accuracy.
I mean, Skeeledon had to ult away to avoid that 2nd shot. The only reason he doesn't die.
Level 20 Rom with red buff. It's real, man. Almost full finished build. Having the Wind Demon, he's probably going to sell Death's Toll here for either Rage or Deathbringer, trying to synergize a little bit better with that Wind Demon. Clean goal here from Denial. Now extending their goal lead to about 10,000, and they're going to be able to really start walking down these lanes.
Look at that. Dead even game up until about, what, 18 and a half, 19 minutes. In the matter of a 3 to 4 minute span, Denial have taken this dead even game into a 10K gold lead. Just really strong, I think, map awareness and response to what everything EnVy's doing.
It just doesn't seem that EnVy was able to snowball off of their early game pressure that Skeeledon was finally being able to apply. He's been utilizing that nausea very effectively, I would say, in the earlier stages, but now in the late game, Denial adapted very well, because we saw it was actually Skeeledon that was 2 or 3 levels ahead of Homie earlier.
He started like 2-0-2, I think.
Something like that. He was definitely 2 or 3 levels ahead of Homie earlier on, but now it's Homie that was able to catch up, and now he's the one that's 2 levels ahead.
Yeah, Skeeledon was level 14 when Homiefe was 11. So by the time Homiefe got 8 levels, Skeeledon has only gotten 3. That's just out farming.
Just 4 deaths in a row, you're not able to really be able to get anything in return. And now PBM caught in an awkward position. The bomb stun connects, a lot of damage, but a lot of cooldowns now being used. Not able to really find this kill. Skeeledon, though, taking a lot of poke.
Oh, double tap. Homiefe is going to take to this guy. He's looking for him. Skeeledon has already burned his ult, and it's going to be the damage that kills him. Kiki sitting in the Isis ult, and CycloneSpin's got to make a big play here in the back line.
Though, getting eaten alive, but that double tap, trying to survive against Benji and Shadowq, using that supernova just to disengage.
Perfect
but Pluck says, no, you don't. Get back in here.
And now, right-hand side, Kiki chased out of the tower. Benji going to be able to close the gap. Not even needed. Great ball wall by Homiefe, but Shadowq, we saw the supernova come out of Soul, and he just sat right behind every tick of damage until that pluck was up.
And CycloneSpin elected to ignore the teamfight completely, going into the left side. He was there in the beginning of the teamfight, but now he realized how quickly south that teamfight was going. Instead, going for the farm. But now it's now they got the 3 kills. They're getting the Fire Giant, heading into the 25-minute mark. Already have a 12,000 gold lead. They're going to extend this to 14 after these 2 towers on right. They're going to start plucking away these Phoenixes with Vetium on this ROM.
Can we actually see gold in hand before this last tower? About almost, it's going to be nearly 3,000 gold for Homiefe after this tower goes down. You can see 2,600 there. And he's going to be able to finish off his Spirits Rope here and get another item. CycloneSpin does manage to get the tower, but he's about half health.
He's not going to get away. The Wing Blade is online for Benji. The Tiger Stun going to get negated by the stun, but he has to buy enough time for the ultimate finally does come back for CycloneSpin.
He's got to do it now.
He's going to be able to barely get up into the sky.
Lack or lack thereof. A little bit of luck. Vetium has the Wind Demon and a level 2 crit.
I thought that he was going to cudgel over the wall for a hot second, but great disengage from CycloneSpin. Gets a tier 1 tower, a little bit of gold back into EnVyUs' pocket, but it's still a long shot right now for them to really get this win. They're just behind too much gold. The Fire Giant is online for Denial. They're going to start grouping up for these Phoenixes.
Here's the main issue with the composition coming out from EnVy right now is that CycloneSpin has gone pure defensive. He's got a single Titan's Bane, so he's going to be doing, know, decent amount of base damage in his kit, but he's not going to be that assassin that's just going to 100-0 Hurriwind or Vetium if they're out of line. And Skeeledon, he's had a lot of trouble getting off his own damage in these fights. Denial are the initiators, and they're being very cognizant of where Skeeledon is in the fights. Kiki's gone for more of that hybrid build, and so it's really up to Oceans.
And now CycloneSpin without his ultimate gets plucked back
One
into
hit.
danger. The Vetium into the sky. He needs to find one snipe. We see the snipe is good. Homiefe dunking down, but it was off the mark. Skeeledon goes down as well. That's 2 dead for Envy. And now the rest of Denial going down the left-hand side.
Ocean served up, gets into Kiki's ult, but he needs the heal now. He actually walks out of it, trying to kill Vetium. He's not going to come up with it, and Kiki body blocked Vetium, outplaying everyone right there. 18 kills for Denial. It's only PolarBearMike alive, and it looks like Denial's heading to Super Regionals.
All they needed was this one win. It was in spectacular fashion, despite the momentum that Skeeledon was building up for EnVyUs. He had to constantly use those ultimates defensively once it got to the later stages of the game. The Thor and the Agni was just too much pressure being applied, and he had to run away.
Started off real strong for Envy. Skeeledon popped off 2 kills, got that 3-level lead against Homiefe, which is a stark contrast to where you would rate them on in a jungler scale. You know, Skeeledon sitting more at the bottom there. Homiefe, you know, top 2 up there with Anninster. But it doesn't matter. I mean, Homiefe able to figure out, you know, how to play that game in the late game stages, but also a little bit of a product of Envy's composition, I think, as well.
I think the double assassin comp coming out of Envy was really smart, and I like it to go back into that style that CycloneSpin has been known to play for the most part. But Skeeledon only found 1 kill on Sabenji. There could have been more of a snowball momentum for CycloneSpin to build off of it, start rotating to these team fights, keep forcing them, and keep cleaning people up.
Again, it really felt like Denial were the initiators. They were the ones forcing every fight. It was off of Homiefe's invades, and well, Envy had some really good counter initiations in that early game. You know, once that Thor came online a little bit more, once the Agni came
Vetium
online,
snipes, though.
and Vetium, I think, probably the best player in all, like in all the players in that game there, I think Vetium played the best. Super clean.
Almost Marvel's-esque there. Was
almost. Come on.
Like
now.
just
Come on
just
now.
a step below.
Not
you know?
even close.
But either way, great play, great performance from Denial. With that 1 win, they are going to Super Regionals. Now it's a question of, can they rack up enough points to get first seed out of this group?
Well, they still have to face Soar, but we also have 1 more game. Envy still trying to show that they could compete with the best, get some points for the gauntlet as well. And we've got Tom standing by to break down that game.
Well, they're not going to be competing with the best. They're going to play through the gauntlet. We'll see how that one works out. The best is already at Super Regionals with Eager. Got to make one a land. Come on now. But there, we talked about how don't make that face at me. I see you. We talked about how Envy had this counter initiation strategy and looking to really bite back on what Denial would be able to give them. Didn't work.
Yeah, very disjointed mid-game team fights, I would say, and also a lot of Kiki getting caught out of position. He did have a very good game 2 games ago. This game, not so much, out of position a lot, and I would say Envy looked really out of sorts, not really communicating and talking in those mid-game team fights.
Yeah, I think the team sort of got lost a little bit there. And to be completely fair, I think both mid laners kind of got caught out quite a little bit. We saw Herwin lose the dash between a tier 1 and tier 2 tower. So I think both mid laners had a couple of issues there in this game. But going back to what the casters were saying, Vetium did a lot of the hard work here on that Hunter play, making sure to bring it towards the end game. And Denial, that last team fight just seemed so clean.
I mean, it was just, you poke out CycloneSpin, Homiefe doesn't get the dunk, but Vetium's there with the snipes, and he was the real standout player, like the casters mentioned there. I mean, he's looked really, really good this entire LAN, basically. He's really impressed me. Coming in, you know, there was a lot of questions about, is he still as good as he was during Season 2? He kind of came out of nowhere at Super Regionals to have a big performance along with Benji, but both of these two that have stayed together throughout, you know, Season 2 Enemy and now on the Denial, both of them have looked really, really solid this weekend.
Yeah, right there you can see Vetium just piling shots into a PolarBearMike, walking where he doesn't belong, and then the accuracy on those ultimates like we were talking about. That's really the key there, is when you're playing the ROM. You got to have that accuracy. If it's not there, you're not really going to be too effective. But this is what we repeatedly saw. We saw PolarBearMike go in and start something, and Denial just didn't care. How were they able to play around the Bacchus so efficiently? You know, like,
I think it really was Envy just sort of going in at different times. You'd see Mike go in, then they'd all get poked out, Mike maybe poked out, and then Cyclone tries to go in by himself, 1v3 in the back line. Really just sort of disorganized, I would say.
Yeah, I think your word before, disjointed, I think that was a perfect illustrative word to really talk about what went on here. Envy all seem to be playing their own game, which is so different from what we saw just a game ago. How does that breakdown sort of happen?
I mean, you're going up against a stronger team right now in Denial. You're going up against a team that is ready for the ISIS probably. They just saw Kiki play it. You know, the Ratatoskr solo didn't throw them off quite as much as the rest of Envy probably would have hoped. And so, overall, I think it's just the level of competition that they're going up against. Denial is a stronger team right now than Enemy.
Well.